Good afternoon, everybody. Started here in a couple seconds.
Don't break the people's house.
How's everybody doing? I think you can hear me. I hear myself echo, so I think you guys can hear me as well, right? All right, good. So, how was lunch? I only took the cookie, but it was good? All right, good deal. So, if you guys haven't seen me at the table yet, my name is Justin Simmons. I am one of the accredited financial counselors at AccessLex Institute. For anybody that didn't come by the table, have you heard about us before? Anybody? What do we do? I got a couple hands, yeah. Take a guess. Just yell it out. My wife does it all the time, so go ahead. What do we do? What does AccessLex do?
Law school.
We can help you do that. We're not going to find it for you, but we can help you do it. Yeah, absolutely. The easy answer is we're the nation's largest legal education nonprofit, right? So can you not hear? Oh, okay, I'm just making sure. Okay, so I saw this and I was like, I'm right here. No. So the easy answer, again, nation's largest legal education nonprofit. So we exist to make law school more accessible and more affordable. Okay. So from the pre-law atmosphere all the way through graduation of the bar, or passage of the bar, I should say, and beyond, we're here from you. We're here for you. And the benefit of those two words I said before, nonprofit, everything's free. Okay? Does that sound too good to be true to anybody? No, I promise you it's all free. I promise. All right. So today, we have content dedicated for you within our platform. It's called Ask Aetna. It's the educational network at AccessLex. Right? We're going to talk a lot about what's in Max Pre-Law today. Okay? It's going to focus a lot of content on choosing, applying to, and financing your legal education. But I do want to ensure that you have access to all the information we're going to talk about today and more. So I'd like you to go ahead and register for an account with Ask Aetna. Remember, nonprofit, everything's free. So askedna.accesslex.org. That takes you to the registration screen. It's quick and easy. First name, last name, email address. Under branch, you're going to select pre-law student, and you're in. If you want to send me some of the cool stuff, like your social security number, blood type, first pet's name, just kidding. You can send it to me. I'm not going to look at it. But make sure you're in there. I'll come back to this slide near the end when we go to Q&A to ensure that you guys all have access. And since we're going to be talking about finance today, I'm going to take you through our disclaimer as well. Bear with me because I don't go nearly as quick as the people on TV. But just know that although everything in Max is designed to assist you in developing your financial strategy, it's not intended to be personalized legal, tax, or investment advice. We'll always consider with you if that information and the content we're discussing is appropriate for your individual needs. But as accredited financial counselors, we are not financial advisors. Right? We're not market managers. We're not going to take your money and invest it for you. We are educators. Okay? So we're going to get you all the information, tools, and resources you need to have informed learning skills and decision-making skills related to your finances. All right? So if you didn't see this on the table, it is in your bag. All the content we're going to discuss today is also within this Paying for Law School booklet. Okay? And as an added benefit that I'll talk about near the end, you always have access to us to discuss any of this. I'll show you how to schedule a coaching call near the end of the discussion so you can have a one-on-one discussion with any of us at any time. Okay? What are we going to cover today? We're going to look at average law school costs, what the application process looks like, types of financial aid that are going to be available because it's a little bit different than undergrad. Right? And then we'll talk about student loans, a necessary evil. Right? So the average law school cost. But before we get into what you're going to pay in law school, let's talk about before law school. Right? Who's taken the GRE or the LSAT just yet? Okay. So we got a few of you that haven't taken it just yet. Here are some of the costs on screen related to that programming. Right? Whether you take the GRE or the LSAT, depending on the schools you're applying to, they may require one or the other or not at all. But they do have costs associated with them, usually anywhere between $220 and $240 to sit for those exams. Right? Now, they also have prep content related to those, and that prep content can go as high as $1,500 depending on what supplemental material you'd like for your study strategy. Right? Now, you've passed those with your scores. You're starting to get your scores and your file together, and every application you're going to submit comes with an additional cost. Right? It's going to cost about $90 each for every application you submit to a law school. Now, the Credential Assembly Service is out there, and they're going to have that file nice and pretty for you. Okay, they're going to put everything from your file together, put it in one packet so you can start blasting that out to your schools that you're applying to. Right? Comes at a cost as well. We're looking a little over $200 for that. And if you want any additional CAS reports, they're usually right around $45 each. Okay? Now, you've done all that. You're starting to get information back from these schools. You're getting emails. They're saying, hey, we want you. We want you to come here. We love to have you. All right? We also want you to buy your seat. Not buy your seat, but reserve your seat. Right? So, you may see a school deposit requirement to get your seat in that class, anywhere between $500 or $1,000. Okay? Now, I've thrown a lot of numbers at you so far in terms of cost. 3 of these 4, usually the GRE and the LSAT don't, but related costs for the programming, application expenses, and school deposits always ask about waiver opportunities. Okay? It's very possible you can get some of those costs waived. Okay? But we're starting to put together a budget before we get into law school. Because once we're in law school, everything is going to be facilitated by your cost of attendance at that institution. Okay? Does anybody know the definition of a cost of attendance? That's okay. I'll give you the Merriam-Webster's version. Right? It is the number that an institution provides to students each year to satisfy tuition and fees, and also a living wage while you're in school for that academic year. Right? Schools are only permitted to justify a student cost of attendance. Okay? So if you're bringing a family with you, we have to have some additional discussions because many institutions across the nation may not increase cost of attendance based on family. Okay, so there are other opportunities out there, but they're not going to lie within the cost of attendance. Okay, it's a student cost of attendance at that point. So we look on here, from a nationwide standpoint, we have resident, non-resident, private averages from the class of 2003, the entering class of 2003. Tuition and fees is great. Got to pay that just to sit in class. The rest of it, how we start to figure out a budget as a professional student, is going to come from the average living and book expenses. Okay? So as you start getting this information from your schools, they're going to send you this cost of attendance data. We already want to know how much we're going to pay in tuition and fees, right? But we also want to know how much we can potentially get as a refund so we can start putting together the rest of our lives while we're in school. Okay? Because you're going to learn 1L year. A lot of schools aren't going to let you work. Okay? It's not necessarily a bad thing. I can promise you got the rest of your lives to work. Okay? So maybe not during 1L year is the best opportunity. But we want to spend 1L year focusing all of our energy on learning as much as we can and being the best student possible, because your education is paramount at that point, right? It's going to create every opportunity and open every avenue moving forward. But we'll bring back cost of attendance here in a second. When we talk about borrowing for law students, this includes undergrad as well, just nationwide average. Usually if students borrow between undergrad and law school, it's been right around $131,000. Okay? Now you'll learn in law school you're only eligible for the unsubsidized loan and the Grad Plus loan from the federal government. It's a big difference from what you're eligible for as an undergrad if you're eligible for subsidized loans. Subsidized loans, the government takes care of the interest while you're in school. Unsub and Grad Plus, those are going to start accruing interest as soon as they hit your account every semester. Okay, so that interest builds up over time. Then 3 years after law school, in this case study, they've accrued about $23,000 in interest. So we go into repayment, student loan repayment, with a total balance of principal plus interest right around $154,000 on average. Okay. Now the numbers at the top are meant to educate. Right? We got some material we're going to discuss, some resources available to lower that number. I want to scare you with the bottom numbers. Okay? We talk about healthy borrowing, wellness borrowing while we're in law school. We don't want to borrow so little that we're driving ourselves crazy, but we don't want to borrow so much that we have a Maserati sit in the parking lot. Right? So there's a gap in between. And we can be successful in school while not burning ourselves out and also not living every moment of luxury. Okay? Let that come. On the bottom, 3 years through law school, 6 months after graduation. If you borrowed, you're going to go into repayment. Okay? If you ignored everything your servicer has asked you to do, if you just delete your number, delete your email, they're going to throw you into what's called the standard repayment plan. It's usually the highest monthly payment, and it's going to be for the next 120 months. Okay? Now, there are other plans out there. There's income-driven repayment plans. But within balance-driven plans, standard 10-year, you're going to pay it off in 120 months. You can also stretch that term out to 25 years and have a lower payment. We'll go over different methods of student loan repayment throughout the deck. Okay? Thought I hit the wrong button again. So cost of attendance again. Here's a breakdown. Remember, tuition and fees has to be paid just to sit in class. And then we're going to start putting together our total budgets based on those living or other expenses. Sometimes they're called indirect. Right? So you got food and rent, transportation, books and supplies, health insurance. If you're bringing little ones with you, this is an opportunity to have that cost of attendance looked at again to see if they can take care of dependent care with you. Okay? And there's always a miscellaneous or personal category. But what I like to focus on is a needs, wants, and savings model as a student. So you can start to put together, hey, what are those things I need to spend money on each month while I'm in school? What do we think they are? Anybody want to scream them out? Need, go ahead. Car payments, yeah. Yeah, ask them, throw them out, yeah. Transportation's one of them. We got two other real big needs. What do you need to pay for while you're in school? Where are we going to live? Right? Got to have a roof over our head. And then what do we do every day? Well, what should we do every day? I heard it, food, diet, right? So think about comprehensive wellness. Financial wellness is a portion of it, but we also want to make sure we're mentally, physically, and emotionally well while we're in law school. We can achieve that through a budget with a needs, wants, and savings model. Okay? It's all going to be hinged upon your cost of attendance. That's what it is. Okay, so let's look at another case study. Let's say we choose school A. Total cost of attendance at that school, $60,434. We get 2 scholarships in the amount of $20,000. That's awesome. So that knocks our potential out-of-pocket costs based on the cost of attendance down to $40,000 and change. Okay? What are our eligibilities for federal student loans? Remember, in undergrad, access to the subsidized loan, correct me if I'm wrong, it's $3,500, $4,500, $7,500 across the 4 years, right? You get a bump when you go to professional school as a graduate student. So now, although the loan is unsubsidized, so interest is accruing, the second it hits your account, you get access to more of it, $20,500 per academic year. Okay? If you need anything in addition, so you see the difference between $40,434 minus $20,500 is $19,934 left in your cost of attendance, your borrowing eligibility. If you ended up needing any more eligibility, it's going to come from what's called Grad Plus. Okay, so you have the options of unsub and Grad Plus while you're in law school, or private loans, which we'll talk about in a moment as well. So types of financial aid, again, scholarships and grants. If you saw me at the table, I heavily emphasize the scholarship data bank, and I'll show it to you here in a few slides. Okay? Every opportunity you get to apply for a scholarship, I encourage you to take it. Graduating law school debt-free is something everybody should yearn for. Right? Makes a lot of decisions more apparent right at the onset of graduation. Okay? Now you'll have options from your school, institutional scholarships. Right? So you want to make sure you hit any priority deadlines that you see coming from the admissions department. Get access to that money as well. And then we have external scholarships that I'll show you as well. Okay? Then we have student loans. We'll get to that in a minute. And then employment. Where you're like, Justin, you just told me I wasn't going to be able to work. Some of your schools are going to offer what's called federal work study, where you can work a required minimum number of hours per week and have that go back to your bank account. Okay? All schools are different. Some schools offer, some schools don't. Depends on the graduate population, depends on the total population of the school, but it may be an opportunity. So it's always a good question to ask. Now here's gift number 1. Well, gift number 2, if you count the Paying for Law School booklet, I want everybody to access this as early as today. Okay? So in addition to any institutional scholarships that may be offered by your school, AccessLex has taken all of the law student-related scholarships we can find, and we put them in one spot. Who's been to FastWeb, scholarships.com, what's the other one? Broke Scholar. Those are all massive search engines, right? Tens and thousands of scholarships. 99% of those are dedicated to undergrads. Okay, so if you're starting to try to identify law school-related scholarships, it's going to get pretty tough. Check this out. There's always right around 800 in there. Okay? Usually right around $3 million in aid. And I'm sure some of you heard me at the table. I can confidently say, without a shred of doubt, there are scholarships in this data bank that go unapplied for and unawarded every year. So take that opportunity. It's an investment in yourself at this point. Okay? We don't necessarily recycle them, but this updates as frequently as daily. Okay? So if you log in and you see a due date of yesterday, it shouldn't be in there, so let me know. But if we have somebody contact us and they say, hey, we'd like to have you look at our scholarship because we want to include it on the data bank. We review that, make sure it's legit, make sure it's not going to collect any of your PII. Go ahead.
Do we have to already be accepted and going to a law school before we apply?
great question. He asked if he already had to be accepted to a law school to apply. You can navigate through different drop-down panels. We have pre-law scholarships, current student scholarships, and bar scholarships. It'll identify them within the search engine. Great question. Yeah, take every advantage. Pre-law, during law school, and then as you prepare for the bar. Okay? Absolutely. So you stole some of my thunder there, because I usually go on my tangent about all these drop-down panels. Demographic information, geographic information, type of law you'd like to practice, what your undergraduate career was in. If there's an essay component, if there's a transcript component, you can identify the exact scholarships for which you'd like to apply, all in the effort of saving you time. Okay? When you apply for financial aid through FAFSA, hands up if you filled one out before. I got to tell you, it's so much easier for you guys to fill them out. I know you can probably see I've got grays in my hair, so I've been filling out the FAFSA since we had to do it by hand. And it would take forever, and it was awful. They made it so easy. I love it. And they keep trying to make it harder through simplification, but it is much easier now. So if you're filing a renewal FAFSA, it's quick as 5 minutes, right? If it's going to be your first time applying through FAFSA, it might be 10 or 12. But again, not bad. So this is usually, well, it's definitely your application for federal student aid. So to get access to the unsubsidized loan, and initially Grad Plus, got to go through the FAFSA. Your school may also have what's called a priority deadline to get some of this data, to get you in the eligibility pool for institutional scholarships. So make sure you're checking with the admissions department and checking online to see if your individual schools have any of those deadlines. Okay? That'll put you in the running for the institutional scholarships, because you don't get any grants in law school. Sorry. Go ahead.
You know when those deadlines just typically are like average?
Every school's a little different, right? But typically they're in January, February, because they want to get that data early enough that they can have their scholarship committees meet and start breaking down the pool of applicants. Right? But generally, January, February. Okay? Now, I had to hit you with the bad dose of reality that there are no more grant opportunities in grad school. Once you graduate undergrad, no mas. Write a posthumous letter to the Congress of 2007. They took that away. And it doesn't look like it's coming back. So we're really focused on scholarship opportunities, right? You do all this through studentaid.gov. You log in. Don't even need a PIN anymore. Does anybody remember the PIN? It's pretty dated. Do you remember the PIN? Not to date you, but you used to have to remember this 4-digit number that just evaporated as soon as I typed it in, and you have to recreate your password if you forgot it. It was a nuisance. Email, password. Finally. So now it's all through studentaid.gov. It's very easy. Then you're going to start getting financial aid offers from your schools, right? So depending on how wide of a net you casted during your application process, they're all going to come back with different financial aid offers. So you want to use that and compare the different types of aid you're offered, whether it be scholarships or loans, right? The amount of each offered versus the total cost of attendance. We'll talk about scholarship renewal criteria in a moment, but we want to use all that data to figure out what our out-of-pocket expenses and overall living wage can be as a student. Again, in the effort of promoting comprehensive wellness while we're in law school. So we have school cost comparison worksheets within Ask Edna, within Max Pre-Law. So as you start getting some of this data, go ahead and get that right in on the sheet. Okay? Let's look at 3 different schools, see what kind of scholarships they're going to offer us. What's my total out-of-pocket cost? What can I receive in financial aid? Okay. Now, when schools start offering you scholarships, you can accept it. You can also ask questions. Okay. So as you get scholarship offers from multiple schools, maybe you're looking at one school who has a cost of attendance of $50,000, right? They're going to give you a 50% scholarship. So they're going to give you a $25,000 scholarship. Maybe that was your number 2 school. Maybe number 1 school came along and said, hey, we'll offer you. Our cost of attendance is $80,000. We're going to give you a 25% scholarship. Right? That gives you the ability to then call and say, hey, thank you so much for the offer. I can't wait to come there. You're my number 1 school, but I am getting some offers from a few other schools with more of an amount. So is there any other scholarship opportunity available for the incoming class this year? Always an option to have that discussion. Now, you're not going in and knocking on the door saying, hey, school 1 gave me more money. Where's yours at? Come on, give it to me. We want to have this conversation amicably, right? So you can schedule a coaching call with us. We can go over scholarship reconsideration and find if there's that plausible ask for you. If you don't want to contact us, that's okay too. We have a worksheet dedicated to help you out and give you all the information. Okay? But take every opportunity. I talk to a lot of 2Ls and 3Ls as they start going on the interview trail when they start their career. This is the exact same as contract and salary negotiation. Right? If you don't ask, they think you're just happy as a clam. Right? That's the analogy. Right? You're just happy. So think about that. If you don't ask, they're going to assume you're okay with everything. Okay? If you ask, you've assigned value to it. They know it's important to you. And then you can start, building on that conversation organically. Okay? But always an opportunity to think about additional scholarship money. Okay? So, when we talk about student loans, mentioned before, as graduate students, you have access through the federal government to the unsubsidized loan and Grad Plus. Okay? If you need anything additional to $20,500 every academic year, it's going to come from Grad Plus. Okay? Application for both starts with the FAFSA. With the Grad Plus loan, one of the two differences between that and unsub is it requires a credit check. This is not a hard inquiry. You are not applying for a credit card. The education department just wants to make sure you're able to get credit, right? So when you take out a student loan, it doesn't show up like a credit card. It shows up like a car note or a mortgage. It's installment debt. Has a plan to pay it off. It's healthy for your credit profile. But that's the only thing it requires. So has anybody checked their credit history in the past? The credit report? Fantastic. Pat yourselves on the back. That is very important, and it's something I harp on every year. Okay? If you haven't done it yet, do it now. You can do this through annualcreditreport.com, Credit Sesame, Credit Karma. It is free. Because the one thing we're looking for when we're identifying financial opportunities for law school is make sure everything's green on your credit report. Okay? If you see anything wrong, we can coach you through how to file a dispute with the credit bureaus or the company it's coming from. Okay? We want to make sure we're in the green so we don't have any questions about Grad Plus. If you're in the green, automatically eligible for Grad Plus. Okay? You see the interest rates on there. They're the highest they've ever been. 8.08, 9.08. Okay? Now those fluctuate every academic year or every fiscal year for the federal government. Okay? So we had really seen an average in between 5 and 7 for quite some time. Then this last one came out and they were 8.08 and 9.08. Okay? But just go back and recall necessary evil, right? They do have interest. That's why we want to focus on budget building as law students. We have an entire module in Max Pre-Law about building your law school budget. We want to make sure we make these financial moves to promote, again, comprehensive wellness, paying tuition and fees, mental, physical, emotional wellness while we're in school. Okay? Now, repayment options, currently, we'll see what happens, but currently there are many options available to you if you borrow federal student loans, including balance-driven and income-driven repayment plans. You also have the opportunity for forgiveness under public service loan forgiveness or income-driven repayment plan forgiveness. If you look on the right, if you're going to go the private loan route, they don't have any opportunities like that. And oftentimes, if anything happens to you, federal student loans can be expunged. Private student loans, they're saying, who else is in that family? Somebody's going to pay this bill. Okay? You can have a one-on-one discussion to decide whether federal student loans or private loans make the most sense for you. I'll show you how to schedule that coaching call. Okay? But again, everything flows through studentaid.gov. Get your information in there, make sure your schools get it, and get on the scholarship trail. Okay? Now, we also have a student loan calculator where it gives you the benefit of pulling in the data, the most recent data, whatever school you choose has published. It'll pull that cost of attendance data in, and you can start to break down a budget over the next 3 years to see what borrowing could potentially look like. At the end of that, we'll also give you an idea of what repayment looks like after graduation. Start forecasting some of this data. Okay. So, again, everything goes through Ask Edna. Make sure you have access. If you haven't registered yet, I heavily encourage you to do so again. First, last, email, pre-law student down there in the bottom left. Okay? And then you have access to everything in the bottom left-hand corner. Once you're in law school, congratulations, then you have access to everything else on this screen, right? Max, which is everything my team does, the Center for Education and Financial Capability, That's going to be poignant information, 1L, 2L, 3L for financial wellness through law school, and then to ensure that you are ready to make some of those decisions that we may be putting off during law school. Okay? All about financial health. An additional incentive once you're in school through Max is we've gamified it. We're incentivizing you to learn more about personal finance in law school. We give out $400,000 in scholarships every year based on a lottery system. You have course content that you can digest. You have webinars that you can attend. We also do on-campus events when we're across the nation. Anything you attend, you get a scholarship entry code. That goes into a proverbial hat based on a lottery system. The more points you have, more of an opportunity you have to win. Scholarships between $5,000 and $50,000, all the way up to $400,000 cumulative every academic year. Okay. Now, once you're in Max Pre-Law, that was all about once you're in school. Let's get there first, right? So once you're in Max Pre-Law, again, pointed content toward choosing your law school, right? Think about Explore JD for those of you who have been in your bag and pulled out that one flyer with all the content that we have. Explore JD is a great opportunity to weight your priorities of what you want out of your law school. Figure out what schools across the nation check your boxes, right? Applying to law school is going to take you through the application process. A lot of the same information we just, touched the tip of the iceberg on today. Paying for law school, which has been a lot of the information today, again included in that paying for law school booklet, and then building your law school budget based on that cost of attendance data that you have from the net that you cast for law schools. Okay? Bottom of this slide, this is where you go if you ever want to schedule that one-on-one coaching call with us. Okay? There are 9 of us. We're all accredited financial counselors, so good news. If by the end of today you're like, I hate Justin, I never want to see his face or hear his voice again, that's okay. No harm, no foul. There's 8 other accredited financial counselors at AccessLex. We all open up our calendars to ensure that we give you the opportunity to speak with us as you define your strategy. So take advantage. Okay? Now, that was everything. What kind of questions do we have? Anybody have any? Yeah.
2 minutes for questions, and if you don't want to project, I have a mic, which is worse.
I got one in the back first.
I don't even know if I know how to turn this. Oh, there you go.
Is there anything you can say about to what degree students going into law school should plan with federal repayment plans in mind? Like, how much does it make sense to trust those? For example, PSLF. Mm-hmm. Should we be assuming that will continue, that it won't continue, that nobody knows whether it will continue?
That's a great question. What we know about federal student loan repayment, the income-based repayment plan and public service loan forgiveness are statutory. It would take a Herculean effort to remove those. And if they removed either one of those from if anybody removed either one of those from statute, it's a class action lawsuit against the federal government. Okay? 2 largest populations to utilize income-driven repayment and PSLF. Anybody want to take a guess who they are?
Teachers?
Close. They're third. What are you guys going to be?
Lawyers.
Lawyers. And doctors. So you're talking about boatloads of money in a class action lawsuit that honestly the federal government can't make the argument with. Okay? Once you sign your master promissory note, because you have to sign a master promissory note for student loans, that's your contract. It's your contract with the government that you're going to abide by all the stipulations they set in place. Okay? It's also the government's contract with you that everything available under statute stays available as the moment you sign that MPN. Okay? So those 2 are safe within statute. Good question.
Do you have one?
Are there any resources that'll specifically help you understand the cost of living of these different cities that we may move to? Mm-hmm. Like, if I can get into BYU but no scholarship, I'll need to see, well, maybe it'll still be better to go there than going to Kansas where I have a full ride, but, I can't live with my parents if I go to Kansas.
Sure. Great question. And the coaching call. We'll pull it up with you and we'll discuss it together, right? External websites that are great for cost of living, NerdWallet. NerdWallet is phenomenal. Sperling's Best Places is a close second, but that close is pretty far down. NerdWallet has just such a great engine attached to it, and they pull so much data from, like, say, CPI and RRPs, which I know don't mean anything, but a consumer price index, right? So identifying groceries, identifying gasoline, again, identifying things that exist within the cost of attendance, and finding metrics based on where you're at in the nation. So NerdWallet is fantastic for that. Just Google NerdWallet cost of living. It'll pull up a calculator. You can put it in 2 cities, and we'll adjust accordingly. Great question. But we can go through that with you on a coaching call as well. 100%. Yeah, back here.
I wanted to add to that on the LSAT website, it lists the schools and how much you can loan for those schools for cost of living. Each school. So like in DC, it's like 30,000 versus here it's only 20 or whatever. I can't remember the exact number.
Yep.
It tells you how much you'll be able to loan for that. And so I've kind of been like accounting and how much more it'll cost me to live than that expected, and that going into my loan.
Yes, that's a good point, because every institution's cost of attendance is going to be different, right? And they have the opportunity to justify those cost of attendances biannually. So every other academic year, you're going to see changes in that cost of attendance, right? So then we start thinking about, hey, maybe I'm starting to apply for schools in New York State. Right? It costs a lot to live in New York State, right? And if I'm also applying to schools, like you said, you just brought up Kansas. I'm going to use Kansas as an example. They're going to have vastly different costs of attendance and vastly different, the average refund you can receive, the indirect expenses. So we want to use those in accordance with how much things cost across the nation to make sure we're getting that equitable offer. Yeah.
I also have a question. So on like the estimated cost of living, it's like transportation costs on there. So are you able to use like student loans to like pay your car payment and things like that if you're unable to in your own?
You can. Yeah, so the question was, are you able to use student loans to satisfy debts like your car payment? Yes, you can. Now, how much of that is going to be included in that cost of attendance? That's a good metric to run your budget, because you're going to pay your car note 12 months, 36 months, or 3 years of law school. So as you investigate that total cost of attendance and see what that refund could be, you want to ensure you can make that cost work. Okay? Because one thing we advise against, or one thing we advise for, I should say, is trying to eliminate debt before law school, especially like heavy-duty credit card debt. Try to zero that out, because there is no metric within the cost of attendance to pay for something like that. Transportation, yes, because you have to be able to get back and forth to school. But if you're bringing a lot of revolving debt, a lot of credit card debt with you, there's no metric for that within institutional cost of attendance. It's not legal by statute. So we want to try and find a method to pay for that before we start our law school path. Great question. Yeah.
So for a lot of law schools, I've been seeing that for scholarships with them specifically, they only apply to tuition. They don't apply to other fees or housing or anything like that. Do we use the scholarships from AccessLex for those kinds of things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you guys didn't hear him over here, a lot of scholarship opportunities from institutions are only for tuition, right? Very few come for total cost of attendance. The scholarships within the data bank, they will notify you if they are cost of attendance scholarships. If they're tuition only, they'll let you know as well. Go for those cost of attendance scholarships. In addition, once you're in law school and you start accumulating those points through Max, if you win one of our scholarships, those are cost of attendance scholarships. And if for some reason, maybe you win the $50,000 and you only had $20,000 of remaining need your 1L year, that $30,000 carries over to your 2L year. Okay? So a further incentive to learn more about personal finance, get those scholarship points. How are we looking on time?
I think we're
Good?
for break.
All right. Everybody okay? Feel a little bit better about our strategy? All right. Hope to hear from you guys soon. Yeah, call us. Please call us.